Hi everyone, and welcome to this video guide on understanding the agreement of purchase and sale, specifically focusing on the crucial deposit clause. This clause outlines the terms and conditions surrounding the deposit, a key component of any real estate transaction in Ontario. We'll be using the standard OREA Form 100. The deposit is essentially a demonstration of the buyer's serious intent to purchase the property. It's a sum of money held in trust until the completion of the sale. Let's break down the key aspects of the deposit clause. Amount of the deposit. The agreement will specify the amount of the deposit. This is typically a percentage of the purchase price, but it can be a fixed dollar amount. There's no set rule. It's negotiable between the buyer and seller. A larger deposit can sometimes make an offer more attractive to the seller. The deposit clause outlines when and how the buyer provides the deposit money. These phrases define the timing of that payment. Herewith. Let's start with herewith. This is a more formal way of saying with this document or enclosed. In the context of the deposit, herewith means that the deposit is being submitted at the same time as the offer is being presented. This is less common in modern practice. It would imply the buyer physically has the deposit, like a certified check or bank draft, ready to go, and is providing it with the offer document. Example. The buyer submits herewith a deposit of $10,000 by certified check. This means the $10,000 certified check is physically attached to the offer. Upon acceptance. Upon acceptance is the most common timing for deposit delivery. It means the deposit is due after the seller has formally accepted the buyer's offer. The agreement will also specify how long after acceptance the deposit must be delivered. This is often within 24 hours, but it's a negotiable point. For example, the buyer agrees to pay the deposit of $5,000 upon acceptance of this offer to be delivered within 24 hours of notification of acceptance. This means the buyer has 24 hours after being notified that the seller accepted their offer to deliver the $5,000 deposit. It's extremely important to meet this deadline. Failure to deliver the deposit on time could be considered a breach of the agreement. As otherwise described in this agreement, this phrase acts as a catch-all. It acknowledges that there might be specific circumstances or clauses elsewhere in the agreement that modify the standard deposit timing. For example, there might be a condition related to financing. The agreement might state that the deposit is due only after the buyer has secured financing. This overrides the standard upon acceptance timing. For example, the buyer agrees to pay the deposit of $7,500 as otherwise described in this agreement, specifically upon fulfillment of the financing condition as outlined in Schedule. This phrase emphasizes the importance of reading the entire agreement carefully. Don't just focus on the deposit clause in isolation. Method of payment. The agreement will state how the deposit will be paid. Common methods include certified check, bank draft, or electronic transfer. Personal checks are generally not accepted. Payable to. The deposit is made payable to the listing brokerage's trust account. This ensures the funds are held securely and impartially. Deposit held in trust. This is very important. The deposit is held in a trust account, meaning it's protected and cannot be used by the brokerage or the seller until the transaction closes. It's held according to the Real Estate and Business Brokers Act, REBA. Time for payment. The agreement specifies the time frame within which the deposit must be delivered to the brokerage. This is usually within 24 hours of acceptance of the offer, but it's negotiable. Missing this deadline can put the deal in jeopardy. What happens to the deposit if the deal closes? Upon successful closing, the deposit is applied towards the purchase price. What happens to the deposit if the deal doesn't close? This is where things can get more complex. If the buyer fulfills all conditions and the seller defaults, the buyer is entitled to the return of their deposit. If the buyer defaults on the agreement, the seller may be entitled to keep the deposit as liquidated damages. However, this is subject to legal interpretation and the specific wording of the agreement. It's crucial to understand the conditions in your agreement and seek legal advice if there are any disputes. Irrevocable date. The offer will have an irrevocable date, which is the deadline for the seller to accept the offer. If the offer is not accepted by this date, the offer becomes null and void, and the deposit is returned to the buyer. Understanding the deposit clause is essential for both buyers and sellers. It's a legally binding agreement, so it's always best to seek professional advice from a real estate lawyer to ensure your interests are protected. Thanks for watching.